Shri Guru Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadesh Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to our morning glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are reading from Canto 2, Chapter 1, the first step in God realization. And today we will discuss the verse number 4 of Chapter 1. So, Prabhu, can we please have the verse on the screen? Verse 2.1.4. Deha patya kala drishva atma svaineshvashvastapi tesham pramatto nidhanam Pashyanapi na pashyati Deha kala drishva Deha kala drishvam Atma saineshvashvastapi Tesham pramatto nidhanam Pashyan api na pashyati. Synonyms: Deha, body; Apatya, children; Kalatra, wife; Adishu, in everything in relation to them; Atma, own; Sainyeshu, fighting soldiers; Ashastu, fallible; Api, in spite of them; Tesham, all of them; Pramattaha, too attached; Nidhanam, destruction; Pashyan, having been experienced; Api, although; Na, does not; Pashyati, I see. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Persons devoid of Atma Tattva do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers like the body, children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. Would anyone like to read the purport, please?
I can.
Sure, Mataji.
Purport. This material world is called the world of death. Every living being, beginning from Brahma, whose duration of life is some thousands of millions of years, down to the germs who live for a few seconds only, is struggling for existence. Therefore, this life is a sort of fight with material nature, which imposes death upon all. In the human form of life, a living being is competent enough to come to an understanding of this great struggle for existence. But being too attached to family members, society, country, etc., he wants to win over the invincible material nature by the aid of bodily strength, children, wife, relatives, etc. Although he is sufficiently experienced in the matter, by dint of past experience and previous examples of his diseased predecessors, he does not see that the so-called fighting soldiers, like the children, relatives, society members, and countrymen, are all fallible in the great struggle. One should examine the fact that his father or his father's father has already died, and that he himself is therefore also sure to die. And similarly, his children, who are the would-be fathers of their children, will also die in due course. No one will survive in the struggle with material nature. The history of human society definitely proves it. Yet the foolish people still suggest that in the future they will be able to live perpetually with the help of material science. This poor fund of knowledge exhibited by human society is certainly misleading and it is all due to ignoring the constitution of the living soul. This material world exists only as a dream due to our attachment to it. Otherwise, the living soul is always different from the material nature. The great ocean of material nature is tossing with the waves of time, and the so called living conditions are something like foaming bubbles which appear before us as bodily self, wife, children, society, countrymen, etc. Due to a lack of knowledge of self, we become victimized by the force of ignorance and thus spoil the valuable energy of human life in a vain search after permanent living conditions, which are impossible in this material world. Our friends, relatives, and so called wives and children are not only fallible but also bewildered by the outward glamour of material existence. As such, they cannot save us. Still, we think that we are safe within the orbit of family, society, or country. The whole materialistic advancement of human civilization is like the decoration of a dead body. Everyone is a dead body flapping only for a few days. And yet, all the energy of human life is being wasted in the decoration of this dead body. Sukadev Goswami is pointing out the duty of the human being after showing the actual position of bewildered human activities. Persons who are devoid of the knowledge of Atma Tattva are misguided, but those who are devotees of the Lord and have perfect realization of transcendental knowledge are not bewildered. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Wow, the pulpit is quite heavy, and I don't know what can I add to that. But that reminds me of bhajan. Manushya janma paya Radha Krishna nam bhajiya janiya shuniya visha kaino. This bhajan is by Narottam Das Thakur, and the meaning of this verse is that I have spent my life, O Lord Hari, uselessly. Having obtained this human birth, having not worshipped Radha and Krishna, I have knowingly drunk the poison. And I feel the verse actually correct. I feel the purport and the verse, they they go parallel. They describe the conditions perfectly. So coming back to the verse actually, so the background is in chapter 19, we heard that Parīkṣit Maharaj asked two questions to the sages of Naimisharanya, that what is the duty of everyone in all circumstances, and specifically one who is about to die very shortly. And in that response, the entire srimadbhagavatam was spoken. Later in the chapter, in verse 38, Parīkṣit Maharaj asks additional question to Sukadeva Goswami that please let me know what a man should hear, chant, remember, and worship, and also what he should not do. So now continuing from those questions into Canto 2, text 1, Parīkṣit Maharaj, of course, glorifies the question that was asked by Parīkṣit Maharaj, because first it was beneficial for all kinds of people, and it was approved by the transcendentalist. And then from verse 2 to verse 4, Sukadeva Goswami answers the question that he asked in verse 38 of previous Canto, chapter 19, in verse 38. So the question was, please let me know what should men hear, chant, remember, and worship, and also what should not do. So from text 2 to text 4, Parīkṣit Maharaj, Sukadeva Goswami answers what men should not do. Basically, a life of a Grihamedi. Who is Grihamedi? As the verse 2 explains, Apashyatam Atmatattvam, who is blind or who does not know the knowledge of a self, the ultimate truth, who doesn't know his position as a servant of the Lord, who does not know the God's position as the supreme authority, and who does not know what is their duty as a servant. So they are Grihamedi. They are just happy, enjoying in themselves. Then in verse 3, which we discussed yesterday, activities of Grihamedi, and he basically wastes his life enjoying in sex life and making money and maintaining family. And today's verse, then verse 4, is actually talks of further what happens if one is having those if one is wasting their life in such activities. What happens is apashyatam atmatattvam, means he develops attachment and great faith in a soldier's like deha, body, apatya, children, kalatra, wife, and who do not see the inevitable death approaching. Pashyati na apashyati. That is the key point and a very painful situation, that it is right in front of our eyes, but people don't see it. And then in text 5, Parīkṣit Sukadeva Goswami answers that the earlier part of a question, that what men should hear, chant, and remember, that Shrotavya, Kirtitavya, Smartavya, Bhagavan Ishvara Hari. He should hear, remember, and glorify Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the controller and who vanquishes all the miseries. So this is just a summary of how, in terms of how the linking goes and how the questions are being answered. So now coming back to the verse again, Prabhupada explains in the purport that everyone from the topmost planet, from Brahma to the tiny germ or tiny ant, has to die. And that connects with the question, that famous questions that Yudhishthira Maharaj was actually asked by Yaksha, or a Yaksha in a form of Yamaraj, that what is the most wonderful thing in the world? And Yudhishthira Maharaj in response replies, Ahani tani gachanti hayamalayam sheshasthavaramicchanti kim ascharya ataparam. That means hundreds of living entities meet death every moment, but foolish living being nonetheless think himself deathless and does not prepare for a death, and that is the most wonderful thing in the world. So that is the crux. That is the crux of this verse. That's what Prabhupada actually elaborates in the verse, that human life is a juncture where human we can come to an understanding that there can be a higher purpose of life, there can be a bigger reality, and what they can see or perceive is beyond what is presented or what is perceptible by senses, atma tattva. But sadly, what happens is they get too attached in the family life. They don't see this reality. They don't see the death approaching, and unfortunately, nor they want to see the death. And what they do, they try and find a shelter in a family life, despite of seeing the family members, forefathers passing, people around them passing. And I believe we all have come through the examples in our life. Or I can speak for myself, when someone is going through such misery or pain in life, and when we try and bring them towards Krishna, closer to Krishna, unfortunately they don't want to also. Sometimes I feel that they want to remain in the sorrow of losing the person, that okay, I miss my loved one so much, and I want to remain. I'm not saying you don't forget them, but I think there is a higher reality that we can connect the person, the event, the situation, everything with everything to Krishna. So what can we do for them? We can just pray for them, but then at the same time we can reflect that a question that we can ask for ourselves, or at least I can speak for myself, that when the time comes, would I be ready? It's easy to talk about others when it comes to it. It's a time when it comes to our own self. Would I be ready? Am I that spiritually evolved? So when time comes, I would let things go easily. Another nice point that Srila Prabhupada makes in the purport, that our friends, relatives, and so-called wives and children are not only fallible but also bewildered by their outward glamour of material existence. As such, they cannot save us. Still, we think that we are safe within the orbit of family, society, and country. So basically, where the humans try to find a shelter, they themselves are not immune to the death, and nor they have the idea of the spirituality. I'm not talking here about devotees who are practicing spiritual life. I'm talking about people in general. So when they seek advice, so if we think this point logically, that whenever we seek an advice or guidance or shelter from someone, we normally go to the person who has it. We normally go to the person who has experience in doing it. Now, it doesn't make a logical sense that when we try to find a shelter in the area or in the people who themselves don't know, and they don't, and we also don't know that they don't know. So basically it's ignorance both ways. And in this regard, actually, there is a very nice thought-provoking story that I read on Mahavishnu Goswami's Mahavishnu Goswami Mahārāja's website. So the story is like that. So in the mountains of Kailasha, where the Lord Shiva resides, one evening Lord Vishnu come to see Lord Vishnu. One evening Lord Vishnu come to see Lord Shiva. Before he entering into the and before he entered the place, Lord Vishnu parked Garuda outside, because Garuda is of course a vehicle of Lord Vishnu, and then Vishnu went in. So Garuda waiting outside, looking at the beautiful mountains, looking at the beautiful ark that was presented on the place of Lord Shiva, and thinking and glorifying the creation, that how wonderful the creation is, who has created this beautiful mountain, who has created and while he was doing that, he's actually notices a tiny bird on the ark, and it was a beautiful bird as well. So he was glorifying the creator again. And while he was thinking like that, at that point, Yamraj actually passes by. He was also intending to visit Lord Shiva. So as Yamraj crosses the ark, he also sees the bird that was sitting on the ark. And he waits there for a second, or like raised his eyebrow, thinking and questioning expression. Then that pause is finished, and then he took off his eyes and went inside. Now, Garuda was present there, and he observed this. So looking at this, Garuda thought that, Yamaraj looking at someone intensely, that can only mean that that person's time, or that living entity's time is up. He was looking at the bird intensely, that means the bird's time is up. Perhaps on the way back, he will carry the bird souls with him. And Garuda's heart filled with so much pity for that bird, and knowing that this little bird, oblivious to what is going to happen then, he feels so much compassion towards him. So what he decided, that okay, let me take the bird outside the clutches of the death. So he took the bird tight in his claw and rushed towards the forest, which is very, very far away from where the mountain Kailash was. Then put the bird near the creek, and there was a rock on there, and he put the bird there, and then he returned back to the Kailash and back into the position at the entrance. Soon after, Yamraj came and nodded to Garuda, and Garuda greeted him. And then, because he couldn't resist, so he asked the question that, while going in, I saw that you saw a bird for a moment, and you become a thoughtful. So why? And Ramraj in response says that, well, my eyes fell on that bird. I saw that it was about to die in a few minutes, swallowed by a python far away from here, near a forest, near a creek, in a forest near a creek. And then I was wondering how this tiny bird could traverse so many miles, separating, so many miles, separating from the place in such a short time, considering it's tiny body has a limited flying capacity, and there is no, because it was a mountain, there is no serpent there on Kailasha. So he was briefly puzzled, but then I forgot, and then he thought, okay, surely it must have happened somehow. And saying this, Yamraj smiled and departed from the arena. So that means the bird meant to die, and Garuda acted as the messenger or a carrier or in the plan of killing that bird. I mean, Garuda did not kill, his intention was good, but he acted as a tool to so that entire thing can happen. He himself actually lifted the bird and put on the creek. So the lesson here is that regardless how many efforts one make to escape the death, it is inevitable. And we all know that I'm not saying anything new in it, but the problem is we keep forgetting it. So what do? Does it mean that do we give up the family life and become renunciant? This reminds me of an incident of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and his disciple. One of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur approaches him and saying that, dear Guru Maharaj, my wife has passed away and I did not even cry. I'm not feeling even a tiny bit of pain. So that means I must be detached and I'm ready for sannyas. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in response said, the fact that you did not cry does not mean that you are detached. It is the sign of your hard-heartedness. You were so attached to your wife as an object of your own gratification that now she has gone, you have no longer can serve you. You don't have a feeling or a sorrow to lose a person or to lose a companion. So it is not a renunciation, it is a height of the attachment. So that means we cannot artificially renounce. The renunciation or the detachment has to come from within. After practicing Krishna conscious life, slowly we start Vishaya Vinivartante Niraharasya Dena. We slowly we start developing taste in Krishna's quality, Krishna's talk, serving for Krishna, and slowly we become disinterested in temporal material activity. In this regard, His Holiness Mahavishnu Maharaj was asked a question that by one of his disciples, that how to become Krishna conscious at the same time lead a good family life. And Maharaj's answer was very nice actually. Maharaj says that we should not think that spiritual activities and maintaining family are two separate activities. As long as we regard them as a separate activity, there will be a problem. Everything we do all the time should be spiritual activity dedicated to the lotus feet of the Lord. So that means when material activity is spiritualized, that very same activity gives the happiness. And how this happens? This happens by change of bhav, change of mood. So externally it may appear the same, but internally the mood is different. So if one maintains one family, thinking as a Lord's property and taking care of them in a best possible way, then it becomes a devotional service. Narad Muni instruct Vyasdev in this regard in Canto 1, Chapter 5, text 34. So the verse is like, Evam Rinam Kriya Yoga Sarve Samshruti Hetava Ta Evatma Vinashaya Kalpante Kalpite Paraha. That when all man's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, those very activities which cause the perpetual bondage become destroyer of the tree of the work. That means whatever activities we do, if we just need to attach with Krishna, we hear this time and again. So, and that is the art of living. It requires guidance, support from spiritual Vaishnavas, and it requires spiritual intelligence. Keshav Maharaj in one of his classes mentioned that when we are cultivated as a devotee, it is not only that we are given philosophies by the devotee or we are taught philosophies by the devotee. What they teach us, they give us the lifestyle, they give us the culture, they give us the etiquette, and even they share the grocery list. They give us how to cook the recipe without onion and garlic. And I can completely relate to myself. When I was new, I'm still new, but in the very beginning day of my journey, I remember I used to call Vrajlakshmi Mataji and ask recipes. That, oh, can you tell me how to cook this without onion and garlic? So it is reading scripture is a part of it, but not in the entirety of it. Yesterday, Jamadagni Prabhu very nicely elaborated on the examples of Grihastha. So he gave an example of our acharyas. He gave the examples of from the scripture, and he also mentioned it is not only that examples that it is not only that we see them in scriptures only. They are in our community also, and saying that reminds me of a saying that it takes a villages to raise the children, and it takes a devotee community to cultivate a devotee. Just reflecting on a week that we had. Sunday we had a beautiful Bhagavatam class by His Grace Viraj Krishna Prabhu. There was so much wisdom shared in the class. Prabhu was quoting verse after one another, and I was sitting there trying to make a note, like trying to catch the verse, and by the time I complete the note, I miss the verse that he said next. So these are the devotees who actually, it's not only they practice themselves, but they come and they share with us. Then Tuesday we had the festival, Jhulan Yatra. Everything in that festival was just so beautiful. Mataji was singing so nicely, devotees were dancing, Jhulan, Radha Krishna, everything was just so beautiful. When I was looking at the photograph, in each photograph, I can guarantee that every devotee was looking so happy, just joy on their face. And at the end, when the festival concluded, one Mataji actually came. She was standing next to me and like, it is so beautiful. It just reminds me of Vrindavan. And I was like, Mataji, you are speaking my heart as well. It was that beautiful. So this is the art of living, and we cannot do it by ourselves. We need guidance, support from senior Vaishnavas. Kunti Maharani in the prayer says that Shurvanti Gayanti Grinanti Bhikshana Smaranti Nandanti Tavehitam Jana Ta eva pashyanta chirena tavakam bhava pravaho paramam padambujam. That those who continuously hear, chant, repeat your transcendental activities and take pleasure in others doing so, they can certainly achieve see your lotus feet, which alone can stop repetition of birth and death. So Prabhupada, in the purport or in this verse, we understand that what is the end of a Gruhamedi's lives. And in the next verse, Prabhupada gives the solution also. But we can see that it is given by it is spoken by it is given in so many verses in Bhagavatam. Kunti Maharani, great devotee of the Lord, sharing her realization. So this is how Krishna conscious life can be cultivated. It does not require premature renunciation. Bhakti means what? Bhakti means loving Krishna, and love is a business of heart. So hard-hearted person can't do that. So instead of renouncing, while we remain situated in whatever position that we are, remain established in our position, and we start from them. Sthane sthita shruti tanuvan manubhi. We remain where we are. Example of gopis. Gopis used to perform all household duty very nicely, And then at the night, they used to go to meet Krishna. Of course, gopis are very high level example, but what we can learn is we perform our household duties nicely, thinking that family life is given by Krishna. This is what we have asked for. So Krishna has given us. Now attach it with the Krishna and serve him accordingly. So I note we are on a 7 o'clock mark already, and we have to recite the verses also from 1 verse to 6. Prabhu, can we please have the verses on the screen from verse 1, 2.1.1 to Shri Shuka Uvacha Varina Yeshate Prashna Kruto Lokahitam Ripu Atmavid Sammata Pumsam Shrotavya Ya Paraha. Sukdev Goswami said, "My dear king, your question is glorious because it is very beneficial to all kinds of people. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter of hearing. It is approved by all transcendentalists. Shrotavyadini Rajendra Nrinam Santi Sahasra Apashyatam Atmatattvam Griheshu Grihamedhinam. Those persons who are materially engrossed, being blind to the knowledge of ultimate truth, have many subject matters for hearing in human society, O Emperor. Nidraya hridaye naktam vyavayeena च भावया दिवाचार्थे हया rajan kutumba. The lifetime of such envious householder is passed at night in sleeping or in sex indulgence, and in the daytime in making money or maintaining family members. Dehapatya kaladrishva atma sainesvasthapi tesham pramatto nidhanam pashyanapi na pashyati. Persons devoid of Atma Tattva do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers like body, children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they do not see their inevitable destruction. Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavaneshwaro Harihi Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Smartavyascheta Bhayam. Descendant of King Bharata, one who desires to free from all miseries must hear about, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead, who is the super soul, the controller, and the savior from all miseries. Etavan Sankhya Yogabhyam Swadharma Parinishthaya Janma Labha Param Pumsam Ante Narayane Spritihi. The highest perfection of life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Okay, we are 4 minutes over, but we did not have a chance to ask any questions or comments. So if has any questions or comment, please feel free to share.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mine is not comment. It's a realization of my, like in the purport about, attachment to family and the country. Yeah, where I come from, we're very, very family oriented, and we also look back where we come from. And I still, until now, I'm still helping my family, their needs, and what I'm still looking after my family and my extended family, which is very challenges for me. Is become Krishna consciousness. I need to slowly detach, but it is a challenges, and it's a bit I couldn't say hard, but when you love your family, it's and then you decided, then you couldn't say to them that I need to slowly detach from you. It's like, how could I tell them? But I already mentioned to them when I was visited them that of my religion now is I don't need to eat meat, and I explained to them that I also encourage them to no more eating meat, just slowly, like, you can buy some tofu like that. But yeah, they couldn't understand much my purpose about it. But yeah, I need to maybe explain better.
Yes,
That's
Mataji. It is hard. So two things I would comment. What you are doing is really nice. First thing Prabhupada mentions in the purport, the situation that he explains, it's about those people who are Grihamedi. Grihamedi is basically those people who don't know their real position. He doesn't say that we stop loving family. Of course, we love our family, but we change our vision. We change we see them in a connection with the Krishna. So instead of my family loves eating meat and let me buy and get them more meat, instead of doing that, we teach them that okay, eating meat is not good for them, because in that case we are, instead of instead of loving them at the bodily level, we are actually loving them at a soul level, which is a higher principle. So what you are doing is very nice. Of course, family not knowing these things in the background makes things a bit difficult for us, but what can we do? We love, and out of compassion we keep trying. Does anyone have any comment or any suggestions? Please advise.
Can I just add something?
Yes.
Detaching from family does not mean we give up responsibilities. Detachment is an internal process. And Shastra Bhagavatam says we have to take care of our parents, especially, and
Yes.
family as well. So we can never give up that responsibility, even if they are non-devotees.
Yes.
Because if we are able to do something now, it's because of the seeds that were sown during our childhood. And that's why we are able to accept what we are accepting now. So that gratitude for our parents should always be there. Detachment is more an internal process. Externally, we can still be, it's like giving association and taking association. So when we are in company of non-devotees, we just give them that association of ours. Slowly and steadily, they look at us, they look at our conviction, and either they get convinced or they become favorable. Either one thing will definitely happen.
Yeah.
That is just my little on this.
So true, Mataji. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, the process takes time. So we need to be patient. And on the Jaishi Mataji once shared this, that when we say someone is a non-devotee, everyone is actually eventually going to go back to Krishna. It is just at this point of time they are not convinced enough. Maybe based on the previous activities. Sometimes someone take a longer. We don't know how many lifetime we have taken. So it is easier said than done, but what my take is, yeah, keep trying and be patient. Thank you so much. We are nearly 10 minutes over 7 o'clock. I think we conclude our discussion here today. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna willing, we all see you again tomorrow in glorification of Bhagavatam.
Hare Krishna. Have a
Thank you,
blissful
Mataji.
day. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare
A
Krishna.
beautiful
Thank you.
class.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for a lovely class, Mataji.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, thank you. It's enlightened my soul.